Our second presentation tonight looks at source water protection. A brief outline of the agenda will look at the background, the objectives, impacted areas, next steps, and any questions and comments. As many of you may remember, a municipal well in Walkerton became contaminated in May of 2000. As a result of this, the province took strong action to ensure drinking water would be protected for all. The public inquiry into the Walkerton tragedy resulted in 121 recommendations that became the building blocks for drinking water protection in Ontario, and new legislation such as the Safe Drinking Water Act and the Clean Water Act were passed. 20 years later, and we are still reminded that protecting our drinking water is vital and a shared responsibility, and it starts at the water source. So, what is source water protection? Each of Ontario's source protection regions and source protection areas host a website on drinking water source protection. The County of Elgin is located within the Lake Erie Source Protection Region and the Thames, Sydenham and Region Drinking Water Source Protection Region. Information is available at www.sourcewater.ca. The county has 4 watersheds and source protection areas, and they include Catfish Creek, Thames, Sydenham and Region, Kettle Creek, and Long Point Region. The source protection planning process and the administration of the plan is locally driven, science based, and involves public engagement. There are 2 committees that oversee the development of the plans and reports on implementation. These committees are comprised of many representatives who have an interest in drinking water issues, such as local municipalities, residents, local farmers, and local business owners. The day to day operation, though, is managed by a program manager and a program assistant. So, source protection plans contain policies that recommend or require actions to address any drinking water threats. These reports have also mapped vulnerable areas around municipal wells and intake areas, groundwater intakes, and groundwater recharge areas, and identify potential threats to these areas. Source water is defined as untreated water from streams, lakes, rivers, and underground aquifers that people use to supply private wells and public drinking water systems. Therefore, source water protections is protecting those water sources from contamination and overuse. There are 2 pieces of legislation developed to protect drinking water. The Clean Water Act helps communities protect their drinking water through prevention by developing source protection plans, and the Safe Drinking Water Act helps protect drinking water through the regulation of drinking water systems and drinking water testing. These acts recognize that residents are entitled to expect safe drinking water and to provide measures to protect it. Overall objectives for safe drinking water include a multifaceted approach that includes source protection, as well as emergency response measures, distribution of water, analysis, testing, and treatment. So, the county's objectives with respect to source protection planning are to prepare official plan amendments and zoning bylaw amendments to the county and local municipal plans that have a municipal drinking water system that is regulated by a source protection plan, and to also prepare more general official plan amendments for the other local municipalities that do not have a municipal drinking water system. Human health depends on clean water, and threats to drinking water and contamination still occur today. Hazardous chemicals cannot always be removed through water treatment, and remediating groundwater after contamination is much more costly than protecting at the source. Preventing contamination reduces the costs to treat water, and poor water quality can impact many areas, including businesses and residents. The objectives of source protection plans are to protect future and existing drinking water sources and to ensure a drinking water threat is minimized or removed. This is a brief infographic on how groundwater works. Most wells get their water from underground aquifers, which are layers of rock and soil with water flowing through small pores. Water in aquifers generally moves slowly. but the water that feeds into these aquifers comes from many places. Recharge areas is a place where water is able to seep into the ground and refill an aquifer. But some aquifers may be more vulnerable to surface water contamination because of the flow of water. Other key definitions include surface water intakes that are an intake pipe that channels water from a river or lake into a treatment facility or system. And a wellhead is a water well's opening. The objectives of the source protection planning and ultimately the policies to be included in the county and local official plans are to ensure land use planning contributes to protection, to encourage efficient and sustainable uses of water resources, to protect water resources from contamination and degradation, and to encourage agricultural practices that protect water resources. As can be seen on this map and on subsequent mapping, the well is shown and the immediate area around the well is considered to be an area of high vulnerability, which means there is a high level of risk of contamination in this area. The rest of the area is also mapped depending on the flow of water and recharge, and as you move away from the wellhead, the level of risk goes down. There are 21 land use planning activities that have been identified as a potential threat to drinking water. These include waste disposal sites, the establishment, operation, or maintenance of a system that collects, stores, transmits, treats, or disposes of sewage, the storage of agricultural source material, the handling and storage of non agricultural source material. Source material is also known as manure, bedding, or wash water, the application of commercial fertilizer to land, the application of road salt, the storage of snow, the handling and storage of dense non-aqueous phase liquid, an activity that reduces the recharge of an aquifer, or the use of land as livestock grazing or pasturing land, an outdoor confinement area, or a farm animal yard, amongst many examples. But overall, these potential risks all have to do with the possible contamination from a hazardous substance. There are 3 areas in Elgin County that are directly impacted. The first is located in Belmont and is identified as a wellhead protection area based on 2 wells. The Belmont Community Park and Central Elgin Fire Station are located within the highest vulnerability area of the wellhead, known as Zone A. Commercial and residential uses are located in slightly reduced vulnerability areas, known as Zone B, and Zone C, which extends into the township of Malahide and Thames Center, is primarily agricultural uses. The proposed policy is lengthy, but copies of the policies are available here tonight for review or head to our discussion paper number 3, Appendix C, to review. The proposed policy defines the purpose, location, background, goals, and it identifies the vulnerable areas and identifies the land use activity which may pose a drinking water threat and the requirements for studies if proposed development includes a threat. Policies in Bayham, there is the Richmond Wellhead Protection Area, which is comprised of 2 wells. All 3 of the protection zones are located in the agricultural area, and a portion of the zones extends into Malahide. Policies for this area also look at limits to septic systems and the involvement of a risk management official if needed. The final area is related to the Elgin Area Primary Water Supply System. The intake for the water supply is located 1.2 kilometers offshore. The primary vulnerability area is 1 kilometer around the intake and does not reach the shoreline. Zone 2 then has a low vulnerability, and the handling of large quantities of fertilizer or fuel is generally prohibited. There are certain areas and policies that are not recommended to be included in the official plan. Source protection plans include discretionary policies related to education, incentives, and monitoring, but they have no legal effect and are not required to be implemented through official plans. There are also certain areas that are considered moderate or low threats, such as the West Elgin Primary Water Supply System or significant groundwater recharge areas. These areas are not required to have policies in the official plan, so no recommendation to include them was made. For the next steps, we ask you to review the technical information and the proposed policy and provide your feedback. These amendments will be implemented either as part of the county's official plan review process or as standalone amendments. So, how can you help? We ask you to refer to Appendix C of the Draft Natural Heritage System Study and Source Water Protection Plan discussion paper to review background and proposed policy, and that's available at engageelgin.ca/official plan review. You can share your comments, questions, or concerns that you may have about source water protection. You can think about how does this impact me and my lands, and what uses or activities could impact our water resources. And stay tuned for future public engagement on draft policies as part of the Draft Official Plan Review policy amendments. And as before, we can accept your comments tonight or in the future, comments can be provided. This slide shows how you can provide your comments at a later date. Thank you so much for attending tonight, and we look forward to hearing your comments in the future.